Danny Rouillet on Kliff Kingsbury? Your level of confidence that he's the right guy to get Jayden Daniels to top tier status is what?
Probably 6 out of 10. So like not bad.
Okay, but
I'm
you're feeling
I'm
good.
not down. I feel okay. I'm a little bit unsure because I look at the finished product of Kyler Murray. Now, how much of that is injury? How much of that is his own limitations? I don't know.
How much of that is that he's just a wee little guy?
He's just a wee fella. I have no idea. All we saw when Kliff Kingsbury was calling plays in the pros, Kyler Murray's in the shotgun 99.9% of the time. Again, is that because Kyler Murray's 5'7", or is it because that's what Kliff wants to do? I don't know. I really, so there's some jury is still out. Again, he has been around some really intriguing, fascinating, awesome quarterback prospects. I don't know. Now, it's kind of this sweet spot, and we talked about this when we're talking about the head coaching hire. There's a sweet spot where if he's great and this offense is awesome, I don't think that's going to be the case, but let's say that it is, he's probably out of here. He's going to get a head coaching job somewhere, or he'll be offered that as such. If it's pretty good, then you've got a chance at some sustainability over the course of a couple of years. And of course, if it's bad, then, who knows? We'll reevaluate then. But I feel okay about Kingsbury. I don't know who I would have preferred in the role, to be honest with you, in terms of the OCs out there. But given this structure, I feel as good right now as somebody could.
Yeah, my preference, just to pick up where you left off, not that I was planning on starting there, but would have been one of the guys that worked with Shanahan, right? Probably I would have gone the way of like Clint Kubiak, who ended up getting, I think he was the last coordinator hired, actually, and he went to New Orleans and got the job with the Saints, if memory serves. That might have been the way I went, but I'm a Shanahan mark. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
No problem with the Kingsbury hire. I think that his situation in Arizona and their limitations had more to do probably with Murray than him. But we're going to find that out once and for all here. I expect him to have a lot of success with Jayden Daniels. I think it is a good marriage, and I think he'll be able, as I said last segment, to design very quickly some LSU-like offensive structure that Daniels is comfortable in, that allows them to move the chains and to put up points. And then you can feed him little by little more of the Sunday stuff. Let's let it be Saturday for a couple weeks, lest we forget 2012 and Kyle Shanahan with Robert Griffin, where they just ran pistol read option. They look like a Big 12 offense for the most part. That New Orleans game where he went for 300 passing yards and they scored 40 points, they were just a Big 12 offense. It was bubble screens and some crossers and some drags and some easy one half the field reads and a whole lot of basically pistol series runs off the edge, inside, outside zone. I think there's going to be a lot of that. I think he's going to be a good fit. But I guess my last thing I want to bring up before we get to the phones is I am a little bit nervous that it goes so well that he leaves. Like, to me, it going terribly is the worst case scenario. The second worst thing is that it goes so well that he rolls out, and then what? And everyone says, oh, it's fine. You've got all these other guys. And I think they did build an amazing staff of people that I'm excited to see what they can become, whether it's Brian Johnson, who's going to be their pass game coordinator, who was an OC last year, or I really like the David Blau hire to help in the quarterback's room. Seems like they're very high on Tavita Pritchard, who's one of the few holdovers from the Rivera staff. Like, all of those guys might eventually have OC DNA. But if there's not continuity from Kingsbury's offense this year to whatever they run next year, then you're asking Daniels to learn a second offense in 2 years and a third and 4, whatever it is, going back to LSU. And I think the more changes like that you make, we've seen it with Jason Campbell and so many others, you're just asking for problems.
Indeed.
So the continuity is really important to me. Let's go to the phones. Benjamin's in Fairfax on Grant and Danny. What's up, Benjamin?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, buddy.
So my confidence is high, probably 7.5 or 8 out of 10, and here's why. He's gotten the most out of the quarterbacks and playmakers everywhere he's went, even against Manziel, who wouldn't study, or even Kyler Murray, who had studying obligations put in his contract. And with everything going wrong in Arizona, they'd always get off to hot starts, be effective, and they get clamped down the stretch. Here in Washington, with head coach Dan Quinn, he's got an opportunity to just focus on the offense. And Dan Quinn's going to self-scout and be like, hey, this is what I'm picking up. This is why it's not working. And they're going to evolve through the year in ways that he could never do as a head coach in Arizona.
Smart call. Yeah, I hope that's right, by the way.
Also, that's a funny coincidence, which I hadn't really thought about, but Manziel's the ultimate party animal. There's documentaries about how epic his lifestyle was in college
Uh-huh.
and then how wild things got in the National Football League. And he tamed the beast, so to speak. Kingsbury was the whisperer there. Kyler Murray is much more professional and, as you're seeing with his career, takes everything way more seriously. But for what it's worth, I mean, there have been all kinds of weird questions and things about him in the locker room and him as a studier. And look at his track record when this video game comes out. And now we're going to actually mandate that he puts in the work studying. You don't do that because a guy is a model operator away from the field who's just diving into the footage that you want him to every single night. If Jayden Daniels is what we think he is, and he's kind of an all football, well, let's do this and learn and watch and study together for 12 hours a day kind of guy. It'll be the first time in a long time, maybe,
He's
that
had one of those.
Kingsbury's had that.
Indeed. So, and again, what can you maximize that? Can you take advantage of that? I don't know how great an offensive mind Kliff Kingsbury is. I know that sounds crazy to say, but he's done incredible things at the college level, put up some unbelievable offenses. At the pro level, it's a mixed bag. Now, you could blame Murray for a lot of that. You could blame some injuries. You could blame maybe personnel choices. And the answer is probably yes to all those sorts of things. But this is your clean slate. It's your side of the building. Like, you're in charge of that offense. Like, that is your dojo. You've got some pretty good minds. Make it collaborative. His best times in Arizona, I think you kind of look back, and I'm reading some articles about this over the weekend, where he allowed his staff to be collaborative, and they got a little bit better in some of the areas that they were weak in terms of red zone scoring and early down tendencies and things like that. They pick some things up. I'm hoping that that's the case. You take advantage of these good minds.
Let's go to Chris, who's in Hyattsville, joining us on Grant and Danny. What's up, Chris?
What's up, gentlemen? Listen, a couple callers have said similar things, but I think instead of having a quarterback who would rather play Call of Duty than study his offense or the opposing defenses, this is Kingsbury's chance to play with a guy who's actually serious about his profession. And that's what all accounts seem to indicate, that Jayden Daniels is that serious. So I think a lot of his difficulty in Arizona was largely due to Kyler Murray and his lack of commitment. Not a sermon, just a thought.
It's a good bit. Again, I do think when you have a quarterback that can do some of the things that Murray can, there are assets to that. There's cool things. Like, look at some of the rushing totals of Murray as a rookie. Look what they did. Again, I brought up the red zone, where they were successful in certain packages, doing certain things. But then you look at the limitations. Like, you look at some of these playoff games where, as one of the callers a couple of minutes ago pointed out, they'd start off fast, the world would kind of catch up. And against the Rams, I think it was, they said, you ain't beating us on the ground, you're going to throw from the pocket. And they couldn't do diddly or squat. Now, is that because Arizona was totally outclassed by the eventual Super Bowl champion? Maybe. Is it because Murray ain't that good? Maybe. Is it because the Kingsbury had no counter? I don't know. These are always kind of the hardest things to answer when you don't have an enormous track record for somebody.
Well, and when the track record, to your point, is not awesome. But I look at, if you're looking at scoring offense in his 4 years from start to finish, 16th, 13th, 11th, 21st in yards per game, which is not the best metric, but it's what I got here. 21st, 6th, 8th, 22nd, but he was top 10 twice in, some of the other offensive metrics. I would say he was middling, kind of a middle of the pack offense for 3 of the 4 seasons, and worse the year that they got blown out, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he controlled everything. He's meeting with the defensive side of the ball. He's meeting with the front office and making roster decisions. If you just give him, he's a chef who's known for Italian food, and you go, just cook the Italian food, man. You don't have to run the whole restaurant. He's proven, maybe not at the NFL level yet, but he's been able to do this. So that's where some of my confidence comes from.